Now, African scholar and academic Professor Toyin Falola has called on the African Union to plough the resources needed in dealing with xenophobia on the continent. He was the keynote speaker at the 12th annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day lecture, which was looking at 20 years since the Durban summit established the AU. Professor Falola says the AU should be assertive with its stance against xenophobia and Afrophobia.
We are dealing with xenophobic attacks in different parts of the continent, and the problem might not have attracted the attention of the world or academia, but it's a major threat to continental cooperation. Xenophobia and Afrophobia linked with misconstrued nationalism and ethnocentrism have never been good for our development hopes. This problem must be addressed by the AU and reaffirm the commitment of member states to ensuring that such acts are not tolerated. The Union must be assertive with its stance against xenophobia, ensure community education, embark on projects that will ensure high circulation of job opportunities, no matter the origin of any individual.
Falola also says incidents of xenophobia and Afrophobia are a threat to unity on the continent. He was speaking a short while ago at the 12th annual Thabo Mbeki Africa Day lecture, and he says the scope around unity on the continent has been limited.
Xenophobia, Afrophobia, and their respective attacks are threats to African unity and a step towards killing the ambition of people who dream about beautiful African future. Have devoted this lecture to the unity of states and countries as the embodiment of the African Union. In doing this, we have limited the scope of our conversation, and it is time that you and I begin to talk about the unity of culture, the African taste of food, our commonality in music, our interest in films. Our people are united.
Now, for more on this, we are joined now by the founder and CEO of Vunani Africa Advisory Group and researcher at the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Simo Zulu. Very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. A really incredible discussion as we perhaps take stock of Professor Falola's remarks a short while ago, just before I spoke to you, speaking to the importance of tackling xenophobia and Afrophobia, and also referring to the damage and the implications of the two when it comes to unity amongst the African people.
Absolutely, absolutely. Professor Falola was emphatic about these things. But before I go into some detail on that, we must pay tribute to the foundation, to the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, which saw it fitting that we have the 12th Thabo Mbeki Africa Day lecture that looks at 20 years of the African Union. And I think we are blessed as Africans to have an institution, an all-Africa institution, that is dedicated to looking at Africa's issues of poverty, inequality, development, women's emancipation, and so on. And the issue of xenophobia came at sharp focus by Professor Falola, who's a distinguished professor of African studies. And he was saying, when we asked and we engaged with him in a discussion on the number of themes that he had, he was talking about the issue of us being united as Africans, but at the same time being disunited. So it's a serious anomaly that we are facing, but it's also not unique to Africa. If you look at America, say look at Europe, there is unity, but at the same time disunity on the issue of Brexit, for example. So we need to also have that courage amongst ourselves to face head-on the issues that affect us. And really, we are more united than we are divided.
Professor Falola also spoke about the level of criticism against the AU, questions around whether or not it's achieved its purpose. And then he went on to expanding about the aim of the AU and what it takes stock of when it comes to the challenges of the continent, speaking about state capture in Nigeria and South Africa, speaking about the high rate of unemployment amongst young people, some serious concerns coming to the forefront when questions around the AU's deliverance and, ambitions. How far have they gone? How much has the Union achieved?
We are off. The assessment is that the AU has done some serious headway, considering where the African continent has come from. You must remember the ghost of Mobutu that still hovers over the Democratic Republic of Congo. You must remember Idi Amin and his ghost in Uganda, and Blaise Compaoré in Burkina Faso. All of these are challenges that the African continent faces. We must, as Africans, be, assertive about what is it that we need. And this speech and this lecture by Professor Falola was about the deliverology of the African Union. How far have we gone in the 20 years? And what is it that we need to do? Fortunately, I had an engagement, 10 years ago, when within the context of Timali, the Thabo Mbeki African Leadership Institute, when President Mbeki was engaging quite candidly with students. And we asked this question, that President, we had the African Union launched in eThekwini, in Durban, in 2002. And 10 years later, what is it that we need to do? We must do. What is it that we need to do next? And he said it's implementation. And again, 20 years later, we're still at that question of saying we need to implement what we have agreed. We have policies, we have plans. Agenda 2063, the issue of silencing the guns, the issue of the empowerment of women, women's emancipation, dealing with the issue of female genital mutilation. All of these are serious challenges. The issue of peace, sustainable peace, lasting peace in South Sudan, in Zimbabwe, in Eritrea, in Mozambique. These are fundamentally important, and we must do some research, serious research, fundamental research, and that is what Vunani group is intending to do. And we need to encourage all Africans on our continent to work towards peace, building peace, sustainable peace, and lasting peace.
And very quickly, if you'll allow me to just interrupt you there, as you speak about the fundamentals, one solution that was, one of many brought to the forefront was the continent unleashing its resources to tackle poverty. I mean, those numbers, 490 million people living below $2 per day as of now, of course, exacerbated by COVID-19, the impact of the Ukraine-Russia war. Also speaking now to the agricultural sector being an option of opportunity and unleashing some sort of contribution to the economy.
We are hopeful. That is my answer to you, is that we are hopeful. Despite these challenges, Africa can be the breadbasket of the world. We'll come back to the issue of statistics, but African agriculture is very diverse, is very rich. The Food and Agricultural Organization can attest to this. Our own agricultural ministries and departments, from national to provinces, can attest to the richness of our fauna and flora, of our tapestries in our agriculture. So we must find ways to make the youth to work the land, not make, but encourage. But encourage.
That's why the leave it there. I hate to cut you short, but thank you so much for your time. Group research at the Thabo Mbeki Foundation, Simo Zulu, speaking on the back of that lecture that was delivered, the keynote address when it comes to some important issues at the Thabo Mbeki lecture.